Muhammad had questionable mental health at best throughout his career as the prophet of Allah and a caravan robber. Islam itself is a religion that was founded on trauma and built on trauma. As we know it today, the Muslim world is in constant shambles with war, famine, and oppression towards women, to name a few. Today, I want to take a closer look at Muhammad's mental health from childhood until his death. Did Muhammad's early childhood experiences shape who he was in a positive or negative way? Are his behaviors signs of a mentally healthy person? Does this explain why Islam is the way that it is? It sure does. Let's get into it. Chapter 1. Muhammad's early childhood trauma. Muhammad's life was filled with trauma from the start. His father died before he was born, and his mother died when he was just 6 years old. When Muhammad was a baby, he was sent away to be nursed by Halima, which is an example of early separation from his mother. When his mother died, his grandfather cared for him, but then he died too not too long after. Do you notice a pattern here? In his short life so far, endless loss and separation from caregivers. So far, his dad died before he was born. Then, his mom gave him to nurse to someone else. Then his mom died at age of 6. Then his grandfather died at age 8. Where does Muhammad go after this? He goes to his uncle Abu Talib, who was poor, which means that he is now adding the trauma of childhood poverty to his list of adverse childhood experiences. To top off Muhammad's trauma, there's also some questionable experiences he claims to have had as a child, where the angel Gabriel came to him and opened his heart, removed what he claims to be a black clot. Then his heart is purified with Zamzam water. Supposedly, Shaitan was in his heart, but if the angels came and removed this mysterious black clot and all was good, why was Muhammad trying to kill himself later in life when he started hearing voices? The voice of Gabriel giving him revelation. He already met Gabriel as a child, so shouldn't this voice telling him to recite be, I don't know, familiar? Instead, Muhammad is scared and wants to throw himself off of a cliff when he hears his voice. In this hadith, narrated by Anas, he says the following. Anas told that Gabriel came to God's messenger when he was playing with some other boys, seized him, threw him down, split open his heart, and took out of it a clot of blood, saying, "This is the devil's portion in you." He then washed it with Zamzam water in a gold dish, repaired it, and put it back in its place. The boys went running to his mother, i.e., his foster mother, saying, "Muhammad has been killed." So they went to him and found him looking upset. Anas said he used to see the mark of the sewing in his breast. If we want to look at this story with a critical lens, there's so many potential explanations for this. I mean, this sounds like some sort of surgery, more or less. It's hard to imagine that in the desert, a child was essentially operated on, then their heart was cleansed with magic Zamzam water, then put back in his chest. We know how surgery works. The environment needs to be sterile, and back in ancient 7th century Arabia, there was no germ theory yet. This is why Muhammad goes on and on about prophetic medicine. With that being said, I highly doubt that anything miraculous happened at all. Muhammad may have had some sort of cut on his skin, and the kids around that interpreted it as dying. Perhaps the story was made up and retold as some sort of tale about how magical he was, even as a child. In the Epileptic Prophet series, Abdullah Gondal presents us as an example of an early seizure Muhammad had, which he theorized to be temporal lobe epilepsy. Auditory phenomena are symptoms of seizures, which align with what Muhammad described. In the following hadith, Muhammad himself described the revelation like the ringing of a bell. Al-Harith bin Hisham asked the Messenger of Allah, "How does a revelation come to you?" He said, "Like the ringing of a bell. And when it departs, I remember what he, the angel, said. And this is the hardest on me. And sometimes he, the angel, comes to me in the form of a man and gives it to me." The strange thing about this, while Muhammad described revelation as the sound of bells ringing, he also, in the same breath, criticizes bells and attributes it to the demonic influence. Check out this hadith. Abu Huraira reported to the Apostle of Allah saying, "The angels do not accompany the fellow travelers who have a dog or a bell with them." There's also this hadith where he again attributes the sound of bells to Satan. The bell is a musical instrument of Satan. Muhammad's revelations were simplistic for its time, aligning with the 7th century worldview. We see this simplicity and ignorance play out in everyday real life as well, prescribing antidotes to things that 1400 years later are not scientific. Chapter 2. Muhammad's suicidal ideation over revelations. So far, we looked at some of the adverse childhood experiences Muhammad had, and we also got a glimpse into the strange stories that came from it. It seems like Muhammad's paranoia about being possessed by Shaitan did not go away in his adult life, which is strange to me because if he truly was a prophet, and as a child had this experience of being cut open by the angel Gabriel and having his heart purified, shouldn't he have, I don't know, less anxiety about hearing from Gabriel again? The revelations Muhammad received were over a period of 23 years from Angel Gabriel, but Muhammad didn't start out by accepting this as something divine, despite claiming he's had childhood encounters with Gabriel. In this hadith, Muhammad feels a loss of meaning in his life each time the revelation pauses, which brings out mood instability and suicidal ideation. But after a few days, Waraka died, and the divine inspiration was also paused for a while, and the prophet became so sad, as we have heard, that he intended several times to throw himself from the tops of high mountains, and every time he went up to the top of a mountain in order to throw himself down, Gabriel would appear before him and say, "O Muhammad, you are indeed Allah's messenger in truth," whereupon his heart would become quiet, and he would calm down and would return home. And whenever the period of the coming of the inspiration used to become long, he would do as before. But when he would reach the top of a mountain, Gabriel would appear before him and say to him what he had said before. Muslims will often get defensive about things such as Aisha's age, justifying the fact that this was common in the 7th century. They will also defend Muhammad because he's their prophet. So therefore, his mental health can't be questioned, and it has to be accepted that all of these behaviors and suicidal ideation that Muhammad exhibited were normal. You know what? I think it's important to understand that modern psychiatry and psychology was not yet a field of study back then. So of course, having a diagnosis of a mood disorder or a personality disorder won't be found in any of the Islamic sources. By nature, there's so much superstition in Islam with the evil eye and jinns, so it makes sense Muhammad's behavior could be accepted as something divine. Muhammad's early childhood experiences with constant loss, poverty, and instability did not give him a lot of protective factors against mental illness. The story about his chest being cut open may have been one of the earliest predictors of his future bad mental health. We can look at this in so many ways, that he had a seizure, and Muhammad actually did hallucinate and believe these things were happening to him, or he made it up. If that's the case, that's incredibly bizarre behavior coming from a child of that age. Quick pause. If you are liking this video, you know what to do. Hit the like button and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. We love to cover social issues, women's issues, and dive deep into the dark underbelly of Muhammad's life. If you want to see more videos like this, join us on Patreon. Now, back to the video. Chapter 3. Muhammad's Peculiar Dreams. Along with Gabriel hitting him up for 23 years, Muhammad talked a lot about dreams. His understanding of dreams was primitive at best. As we now know in modern psychology, dreams are the emotional processing of events during our waking hours. Muhammad taught a very simplistic and incorrect understanding of what dreams mean, which is actually harmful to modern-day Muslims who are suffering from nightmares. In this hadith, Muhammad gives an incorrect and false take on what good dreams and bad dreams mean. The Prophet said, "A good dream that comes true is from Allah, and a bad dream is from Satan. So if any of you sees a bad dream, he should seek refuge with Allah from Satan and should spit on the left, for the bad dream will not harm him." Let's remember that this is a man who sees marrying a 6-year-old girl as a good dream. That's his baseline for what's considered normal. In this hadith, Aisha herself narrates, that the prophet said to her, "You have been shown to me twice in my dream. I saw you pictured on a piece of silk, and someone said to me, 'This is your wife.' When I uncovered the picture, I saw that it was yours. I said, 'If this is from Allah, it will be done.'" Let's think about if Prophet Muhammad were here today and he was seeing a psychologist and he decides to disclose this dream. There is no one in this field that would ever consider this normal. There are so many ways to look at this dream. It could be Muhammad's unresolved childhood conflicts. It could be his latent sexual desires towards his friend's daughter. It could be a sign of impaired reality testing, meaning that instead of brushing it off as a dream, Muhammad saw this as literally true and acted upon it. By acting on his dream as a literal truth from Allah, Muhammad took his dream, fantasy, and turned it into a dangerous reality, which still has negative real-world implications 1400 years later. Chapter 4. Muhammad was not mentally well for 6 months. One of the most clear signs that Muhammad suffered from mental health issues is a hadith where he became affected by magic, and apparently this so-called spell that was cast onto him was so potent that he was mentally incapacitated for 6 months. This event happened at the time Muhammad and all of his buddies made hijrah to Medina, so this would place Aisha between 14 and 16 years old at the time. She's still a kid, and in her short life, she has been exposed to so much mental instability from Muhammad and was burdened with being his caretaker. In this hadith, Aisha narrates, "Magic was worked on Allah's messenger so that he used to think he had sexual relations with his wives while he actually had not. Sufyan said, 'That is the hardest kind of magic, as it has such effect.' Then one day he said, 'Oh Aisha, do you know that Allah has instructed me concerning the matter I asked him about? The 2 men came to me, and one of them sat near my head, and the other sat near my feet. The one near my head asked the other, 'What is wrong with this man?' The latter replied, 'Thee is under the effect of magic.' The first one asked, 'Who has worked magic on him?' The other replied, 'Labid bin al-Assam, a man from Bani Zuraik, who was actually an ally of the Jews and was a hypocrite.' The first one asked, 'What material did he use?' The other replied, 'A comb and the hair stuck to it.' The first one asked, 'Where is that?' The other replied, 'In a skin of pollen of a male date palm tree, kept under a stone in the well of Darwan.' So the prophet went to that well and took out those things and said, 'That was the well which was shown to me in a dream. Its water looked like the infusion of henna leaves, and its date palm trees looked like the heads of devils.' The prophet added, 'Then that thing was taken out. I said to the prophet, "Why do you not treat yourself with nashra?" He said, "Allah has cured me. I dislike to let evil spread among my people." I find it particularly strange that his delusion was specifically about having sex with his wives for 6 whole months. Imagine dealing with that day in and out from Aisha. For 6 whole months, she has to hear Muhammad say over and over again that he was having sex with all of his wives when he actually hadn't. What do you even make of that as a child? And what's even more interesting is that these themes of paranoia usually revolve around blaming Jews, jinns, or hypocrites. In this case, he's under the belief that a Jew managed to use a comb and a piece of his hair to cast a spell on him, where he was under the delusion of having sex with his multiple wives for half a year, when he never did at all. Chapter 5. Conclusion. In conclusion, Muhammad had all of the markers of mental instability, starting from the very first incident of his chest being cut open. What kind of religion would an unstable man make? Islam. If you like this video, give it a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. If you want to do even more to support our work, join us on Patreon. Prophet Muhammad was not mentally well, and it's clear from the religion that he created. Leave Islam behind. Life is better and more beautiful without it.